Hi, my name's Bram Gieben and I'm the host of the podcast Strange Exiles. It's a podcast about ideas, identity and ideology. I've a background as a writer and journalist, and over the years I've been in touch with or followed some really fascinating characters who embodied kind of alternative or different ways of looking at things like consciousness, reality, politics, ideology behind politics, and the philosophy that underpins the way we see the world. I'd always wanted to explore that topic really, and so I just set out on a journey to find people who had an interesting way of looking at the world and interesting things to say about it. We've had a Dutch philosopher called Peter Sass talking about non-dualism and consciousness, and he was talking about how that's come to influence psychology and philosophy in the West. In episode 2 we talked to Ian Cat Vincent, who is a practicing chaos and combat magician. He calls himself a postmodern magician, and we talked a lot about comic books and archetypes and all sorts of interesting things. Comics are a subject that kind of keep creeping back into the podcast. On episode 3 we had David Lee Morgan, who is a radical left-wing poet based in London, and he told us all about his journey through left-wing radicalism from the 1960s to the present day. Guest number 4 was Joshua Ellis, who's a Pulitzer Prize nominated journalist from Las Vegas, who's written about homelessness and economic collapse and climate change. He had some really interesting things to say about the possible future of America and coming crisis to do with scarcity of resources and population pressure. And coming up very soon, we've got episode number 5 with journalist Marianela D'April, who writes about architecture, culture and politics for magazines like Jacobin and Surface, among others. Over the next few months, we've got some amazing guests coming up, philosophers, journalists, artists and thinkers of all kinds. It was really fascinating last month talking to Marianela about architecture. It's not a subject to know a lot about, so to consider the politics of architecture from her point of view was really fascinating. So what to do is follow us. You can go to anchor.fm and find Strange Exiles on all the streaming sites where you would usually find your podcasts, from Apple to Spotify on down. You can also follow our newsletter on Substack. It's strangeexiles.substack.com. We do a monthly newsletter after the show with recommendations for reading, watching and listening from our guests from the previous month. We also put some additional content up there on the blog. This month we had a 2012 interview I did with the comics creator Ailes Cott. So I hope you'll find the blog and the podcast just as interesting as each other. I hope you'll join us on this journey to explore kind of some alternative and less well-known approaches to looking at life and reality. Thank you very much in advance for following, and we hope you enjoy it. We are Strange Exiles. Stay safe out there.